I sat down in person with games media personality Colin Moriarty to talk about my lifelong doubting faith and the reasons I still hang on to it. You can listen to that conversation right now by following the link below. I hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to my review of Deep Sky Derelicts Definitive Edition on the PlayStation 4. I want to thank 1C Entertainment and Snowhound for providing a review copy for me to review this game. This review is in a different format from what I usually do, and that's because I played this game for 5 hours, recording myself doing the normal trial and error format. I came to a conclusion about how I felt based on the first 5 hours, like I usually do, which was really mixed. I had really mixed feelings about it, and then I put it down and stopped recording over the weekend, preparing to edit this together on Monday, and then a funny thing happened. I felt like getting back into the game over the weekend, and I played it over the course of the weekend for about another 5 hours, and came out of that feeling very, very positive on this game, and with the concerns that I did have really being minimized, if not negated, over the course of that additional 5 hours. So what I want to do, rather than record another 5 hours of myself and edit that down, is just kind of give you a little tour of the game here and minimize on the editing, hopefully, so that I can get this out to be useful to you PlayStation 4 owners who are maybe thinking about purchasing this game when it releases. So you have the choice between campaign or arena. I never even messed with arena. I've just done campaign, which when you select it kind of randomizes and rolls up some characters for you, and you can change the team name, you can change the individual names. You can't, that I could tell, enter in your own character name, which is a little disappointing. They do have a ton to choose from, so I found some ones that I felt pretty good about, but I really would have liked to have been able to name them. That's a bit disappointing. There are a ton of different character classes: technician, medic, leader, scrapper, miner, inventor, tracker, bruiser, and then lots of portraits to choose from, and then more modifications you can make to those portraits once you're inside of the game. You can also finesse a little other details about them, give them these traits of that'll give some static bonuses and stuff like that. So there's and some also nice cosmetic changes you can make to them as well. So there are really some nice, apart from the limitations with naming your characters, there are really some nice customization options just right off the bat, and you can re-roll your character if you're not happy with the way that it turned out. I didn't spend a lot of time re-rolling and trying to get my characters perfect because I didn't understand this game, so I just kind of went in with some defaults that they gave me, with what did I go with? I went with a medic, a leader, and a bruiser, and I think it is recommended that you have a pretty varied party that can cover your bases a little bit. But let's go into my saved campaign now. Now, you can play this game on either normal or hardcore difficulty. I assume there's maybe some permadeath or something associated with hardcore. I didn't mess with that at all. I was actually hesitant at first because there was not like an easy difficulty, and just stepping into this game for the first time with all the systems and terms and stuff like that, it was very intimidating to not have an easy option. But what I found is that as long as I was willing to kind of flounder a bit and just move forward, making choices, not understanding necessarily what all the optimal choices are, that over time I could get to know the game, and there was enough, the difficulty was easy enough that I could manage early on until I could get the swing of things and the terminology. The basic game I would describe as a sci-fi, turn-based, dungeon crawler RPG with deck-building, card-based combat. It is roguelite. It describes itself as roguelite, but I mean, that's a nebulous term. What does that mean? I would say this game is roguelite in that it has procedurally generated levels called Derelicts, which are the stand-ins for the dungeon of this dungeon crawling game. And then there are enemies in the Derelicts that move as you do and only when you do, which is kind of a standard of roguelike games. It's a simple graphics interface in terms of the map as you're exploring the Derelicts. That's also very much like a roguelike type game. And there are lots of systems and stats with, I really want to quickly add, helpful tools to learn all those systems and stats. And the main thing is going to be the codex here. I just recommend that because of how helpful this codex has been to me, that players just jump in and learn as they go. Instead of programming a lot of tutorial stuff into this game, there's a little bit at the beginning, but mostly they just provide this great codex with different categories of things that you can check out. The glossary is probably the one that I frequent the most, where you can get entries on any term that pops up that you're like, well, clearly they think I should know what this means, so I guess I'll head over to the codex, you know. And so the codex has been great, and it's accessible at almost any point in the game. So when you're in the middle of combat, when you're in the middle of like the shop or something like that, in most every circumstance, the codex is available to open up and help you understand the terms that might be in front of you, so that you can, make your decisions appropriately. You do have some minor settings options here, show tutorial tips, I'd keep those on for sure. You can refill your energy when leaving the station, which that sounds good at the outset. I actually still have it on. It doesn't mean your energy gets refilled for free. You still have to pay for it. Why you would want your energy refilled, I'll get to in a little bit. And then a few other options that don't really affect difficulty, and then your usual audio options as well. You've got the option to either save, which just saves over the file that you're currently playing on and that the game is auto-saving to frequently, and then you can also save to file, which allows you to keep multiple save files on here. So it's not a punishing roguelite in my experience, in which you die and there's permadeath and you have to start all the way over from the very beginning. You can always just jump back to an earlier save. So this is the space station, but before I give you a tour of the space station that is kind of your hub between missions, I want to open the PDA, which you use the touchpad to open up. You got 3 tabs here: crew, inventory, and mission log. The crew, you can cycle through using R2 to different crew members. You can have a max of 3 crew members, and you are able to get different crew members to replace ones that have perished or that you're just kind of sick of, but the idea is to stick with 3 rather than have like this constantly rotating group like in, say, Darkest Dungeons, which this game, I think, because aesthetically it has a similar art style, even though it's sci-fi instead of fantasy, to Darkest Dungeons, there's gonna be a lot of comparisons made between the two games, but the few hours I've played of Darkest Dungeons compared to this, the gameplay feels significantly different to me. So again, we've got these skill trees here with a combination of bonuses that either add static things to your characters or will add static things along with these cards. So you look at this Cleansing Buffer 1, that's going to add 2 cards that are Cleansing Buffer cards, and they're going to be added to my deck here at the bottom. This is, we're looking at my medic, aptly named McCoy, and this is her deck of cards that during combat she's going to be cycling through. You're going to have just a few cards in her hand at a time, and every turn you're going to draw replacement cards as you are, using also and discarding cards every turn. And when all your cards run out in your whole deck, then they just automatically get reshuffled and you start drawing from them again. So you're constantly cycling through the same deck of cards during combat. You don't have complete control over the nitty-gritty deck building of your entire deck. You'll notice that some of these skills, if I get this level 1 medic ability, then that comes with automatically 2 cards as part of the package of getting that skill, which means those 2 cards are now going to be a part of my deck. And so you want to be thoughtful as you buy equipment or equip items and stuff, because every equipment item you buy is either going to have a static bonus and or some cards that it's going to add to your deck. And so if you want to keep a pretty lean, mean fighting machine as one of your characters, you're going to want to be careful not to add too many like status affecting kind of cards that will just kind of get in the way of you really wanting to get to those damage dealing cards. I think people that are familiar with deck building games are, going to be able to jump into this pretty quickly, but they might be a little disappointed that you can't, have complete control over, I want just this many cards of this type in my deck. You kind of have to accept sometimes a bundle of 2, 3, or even 5 cards if you're equipping a certain weapon or a skill or something like that. And if we look at our inventory tab now, you can see how some of these weapons or items will have cards attached to them. Like this level 3 heavy ranged weapon comes with 4 cards, and I can click R3 to zoom in and get a better look. This one does 100% weapon damage. If shields depleted, meaning the shields of the enemy, then they'll get -2 armor for 2 turns. And then also ignore 60% of the enemy's evasion skill. And so there's a lot of terms there. Well, maybe evasion specifically kind of jumps out. What does that mean? Well, you can open up your codex and you can look that up and get an idea. There's every once in a while I run into things that aren't in the codex, but that's the exception to the rule. I've been able to figure out a lot about this game just by jumping into that codex. Let's see here. You've got a lot of generous room in your inventory. I've not even come close. I think there are 10 levels of potential experience levels in the game, and I'm at level 5 right now, and my inventory I never feel like is really clogged up. I've always got plenty of room in my inventory, so that's really nice. And you're going to spend some time on this page because you're almost constantly picking up loot that you're going to want to look at and determine, is this a better fit than what I'm currently equipping? And sometimes, a weapon or a modification to that weapon. See, each of these weapons here, like this, this ranged weapon has these 2 slots where you can add modifications to that weapon, which will either, again, add a static bonus and or 1 or more cards that will get added to your deck to thematically, to represent mechanically what the thematic concept of the modification or the equipment card is. But anyway, you're going to be looking in here, and sometimes there'll be a weapon that's maybe a level lower than the weapon you're currently equipping, but because of the way you like to play your character, maybe to be more about status effects, or maybe to be more about straight-up damage, or maybe to be more about defensive and helping your party members heal or restore their shields. Depending on how you're kind of creating your characters to play in combat, you're going to have all kinds of choices to make. And so it is the type of game where if you enjoy getting new equipment, seeing what it can do, and thinking about how it could help optimize your strategy, I think there's probably going to be a lot that you can enjoy in this game. So everybody has a weapon of some kind. Most everybody has a tool. I don't think all of my guys have a... Let's see here. Yeah, my bruiser doesn't... Oh no, my bruiser has 1 tool. But some characters will have 2 weapons and 1 tool. Some characters will have, like my doctor, or my medic, excuse me, has 1 weapon and 2 tools. And the tools are going to, tend to be more about like status effect-y kind of stuff. And then everybody has a shield core. And the shields in this game are really what you want to think about more than your health. You see, she's got, under her portrait, health 39 and shields 31. But the shields are the thing that's always going to get attacked primarily or first. And then once they're down to 0, then your health starts getting whittled away. But you want to keep the damage limited to your shields as much as possible, because after the end of every combat encounter, your shields get restored, but your health does not. If you want to restore your health, you need health restoring items, which are not as easy to come by as like energy restoring items, and again I'll get to what energy is all about in a minute, or shield restoring items, or you can heal yourself back at the station. Primarily that's the way you're going to get health back, and I'll get to that in a second as well. But shields are really a big part of your defense in this game. And then the final tab here under your character stuff is the mission log. You've got your main missions, which basically just involve exploring these derelict ships, which are actually these ancient vessels that have been out there just busted down and seemingly lifeless for thousands of years. And the mission you have is to scour these derelicts for data that can help the organization you're working for learn where the mothership for all of these derelict ships is. And there's going to be some big discovery that everybody's after, in this very kind of dystopian sci-fi future world. And you're just kind of like a down on their luck mercenary type of character who's just trying to earn a better life for themselves, and so you're taking on these mercenary jobs for the sub-governor, is what he's called, so that you can earn credits and take on, more dangerous missions that will pay higher credits, and if you can get this discovery of the the mothership, then you've got your ticket in life, to just ascend to the higher echelons of society, And so it's definitely mining those kind of especially 80s themes of capitalism, or satirical views of capitalism, and pulling from 80s sci-fi aesthetically as well. Anyway, so you've got your main missions, which involve searching for data aboard the Derelicts. You can also pick up other missions in the Lair, which is kind of the tavern at the space station. And you can also pick up side quests, missions from random NPCs that you run into. So there's a number of different places, and you want to grab as many of these missions as you can, because they're all going to get you credits upon completion, or other rewards that are going to be really useful to you. In addition to, just naturally gaining experience points as you're going on those missions and fighting monsters and bad guys and stuff. Okay, so that's it for the PDA. Let's give you a little tour of the space station here. First, we'll look at the pawn shop. This is probably the place that I go to the most. You can sell all the crap that you don't want, and buy the stuff that you are really interested in. And I always enjoy my visits to the pawn shop, because there's always new equipment there that is catching my eye, that I have interesting decisions to make regarding, like, is this going to be more optimal to the strategy I'm using for this character, or what's the risk associated with selling something and trying out this new thing, or can I keep both for now, so managing your resources and thinking about these equipment choices has been an interesting, engaging part of the experience for me. What has not been satisfying during the pawn shop shopping sequences is not being able to compare to my own inventory. There's unfortunately no way to access your own inventory when you're engaging with a seller. And that is, there's a workaround here, because I can just leave the pawn shop, open my PDA, jump over to my inventory for my crew members and refresh my memory, but there's no really quick and easy way to just compare, an item you're considering to something that you already have. And so that's disappointing. And when you do, now and then run into a random NPC in the middle of a dungeon, or in the, the shuttle bay here, sometimes right after getting back from a mission, some dialogue options will open up, and there's some random trader that you can interact with. And especially when you're in the dungeon, there's been situations where I'm like, this is like a one-shot opportunity to kind of interact with this vendor, and I can't, get into my inventory to see if this thing he's offering is really going to be worth it to me. So that's a little bit frustrating, but there is a workaround. It's just a little bit laborious. Now, in addition to buying and selling, you can also fill up your energy reserves, which right now my energy cells are full, but you always have an option here to fill those up. And I have it set to fill up my energy every time I leave the station to go out on a mission. And I still have to pay the money for that, but that's just a nice feature so that I don't ever forget. Because energy is what you use in this game to explore. Your energy is basically your life support. And every time you take a step in the dungeon, as you'll see when we get into one, your energy is being depleted. Your energy is also depleted just by being in combat and playing cards, and almost everything you do, including scanning your surroundings to as you explore. Almost everything you do in a dungeon is going to be depleting your energy bit by bit by bit, and if you run out of energy, then very quickly your health is going to deplete, and then you will die when you run out. And so you always want to keep an eye on your energy. It's a little bit of press your luck as you're exploring the Derelicts and deciding, okay, should I go back now, or can I push a little bit further based on the energy that I have? So I find that that's a fun, engaging kind of element of the game. Next up, we've got the station hall. This is just where you talk to the sub-governor. He's the guy that basically gives you the main story missions as you're progressing through the game. I gave him some data a little while ago. I can check and see if there's any news regarding the data. I don't think there will be any news regarding the data. And these dialogue options just kind of like automatically pop up. I'm not pushing any buttons. But if they, are going by too fast, you can go back in most cases and use your right stick to cycle through the dialogue again to make sure you don't miss anything. But occasionally, you know, once I've given him some new data, then he'll say, oh, there's some new derelict ships we've gotten coordinates to now that you can now explore, you know. But I don't spend much time coming to see him unless I have completed a data collection mission on one of the derelicts. Next up, we've got Deep Sky Medical, and you really want to spend as little time here as possible. This is where you're going to get your health restored, and if you're losing health a lot, chances are you're in a derelict or a dungeon that has you in over your head. You really don't want to be having combat dig into your health very much ever, if you can possibly avoid it. But the other thing that you would, it's expensive, and that can get you into trouble if you keep having to sink money into healing yourself. But the other thing you can come here for are implants. Now, this isn't something that I've really explored yet. I think probably with my credits being where they're at, which is pretty high right now. I've got 7,278 if you look at the bottom there. And I think I read online someone suggests that a good buffer zone of about 1,000 is what you want to always have in the bank, so that you can get yourself out of trouble if your resources really get depleted. So I've got plenty of a buffer to dig into implants if I wanted to, and these are all static buffs that you can add to your characters. There's a limited number of implants that you can give to each character. See, in order, it says insert, and then below that, upgrade needed. That's because I need to upgrade my character Alpha, he's my leader, in order to have him be eligible to have 2 implants. Right now he can just have 1. And I can cycle through the characters, and each one of them right now I could buy an implant for if I wanted to. Neural retraining, that just allows you to redistribute your ability points. I think that's really cool in a game like this where, you know, you may feel like you're in over your head at the beginning, and you're like, I don't know how to optimize building these characters, and then, you know, around level 5, halfway through the game, you're realizing, oh crap, I really wish I would have made some different choices. Well, this is a really welcome feature. Reconstruction. This is something that I just looked at for the first time before hitting record, and this is fun because not only can you totally, you know, do like crazy cosmetic surgery and change the way your character looks. I saw this option here. It's like, oh, I can add like a little visor, a little cybernetic thing. That's kind of cool. And then this is what he looks like in combat down here. I can change his helmet around. I can change his suit colors a bit. So yeah, some neat options there, but I'm not going to actually change anything about my character. I like the way he looks for now. Now we'll go over to the research workshop. Again, a bunch of kind of static upgrades that you can choose here. The scanner is what you're going to use to highlight the contents of squares around you in the map, and you'll see better what I'm talking about once we get to the map, but that's going to reduce the cost of scanning, because again, scanning costs energy, and you always want to keep an eye on those energy reserves. You can get more information from a scan if you upgrade it. Some of the information that's displayed on the map when you do a scan will stay on the map for a little bit longer, and just some different options there. You can also make your crafting experience a little bit better, which we haven't gotten to crafting yet, but and you can add implant slots and different things like so. Lots of nice character customization options in terms of what your characters can do and how you want to build them to suit your playstyle. So yeah, this is where you can craft weapons. You have to have an item in your inventory that you can disassemble in order to unlock making certain kinds of weapons, and I haven't really played around with crafting much at all, which is why I only have assault ranged weapon as an option right now. So, but if I open this up, then I can create the basic core weapon, or I can create what looks like, I don't know, maybe modifications to it or something. But anyway, 472 credits to create a level 5 assault weapon, basically. And that level 5 is the level I'm at, so that's pretty cool. And it's going to have at least a damage of 11 or 12, so it's nice to know that. But it's all, these are ranges because it's going to get randomized. See here, watch this. Craft! And then that's what I get. It consists of 4 cards and 11 damage with no other kind of like bonuses or anything like that. Now, before recording, I did the same thing and I got a very different result. And you can also enable rerolls, but that's going to you're going to have to, you know, scrap some other equipment in your inventory in order to enable a reroll. So anyway, but that's kind of a cool option for when you have a ton of money and you just want to start, like, you know, you want something to sink it into. Well, crafting is going to be a good option for you. So even if you find yourself like, oh my gosh, I have way too much money, there's always something that you can use it on that's going to be potentially useful to you. Then finally, we've got the Lair. This is basically just a pub that you can go to either pick up contracts, which are like side quests. There are none listed right now because I grabbed them all up every chance I get. If there's a quest, I take it. I don't think there's any reason not to. There's no limit on the number of quests that you can take, so might as well take them because you can get some great rewards that'll really help you out. And then mercs, I've not tapped into this at all either because I've been happy with my characters, but if I wanted to, I could, you know, recruit a replacement character of some kind. So, all right. So let's get into, you know, the meat of this game, which is exploring derelicts. You jump into your shuttle and you take off, and then you've got this screen here that gives you all the options of derelicts that you can explore, along with the information that's available about them. Now, my party's at level 5. And so the derelicts all have a level associated with them, so that gives you an idea of kind of the difficulty that you're in for. And if it's a high enough difficulty, it'll actually have a warning next to it of like, warning, you know, this is a higher difficulty, are you sure this is what you want, you know? You start out with one derelict at level 1, and I explored that, you know, it says status 100% explored. In each of the derelicts I've explored, I have chosen to completely make sure I've revealed everything in there and tried to find everything I could and complete all the missions associated with that derelict. That one had 4 missions, I completed all 4. And that's partly because I'm a completionist, but also you can't grind in this game. Once enemies on a map are killed, as near as I can tell, they do not respawn. And so there is a finite amount of experience and a finite amount of money that can be found in this game. And that's actually the reason why I was very hesitant to continue playing this game after realizing that, you know, during my first 5 hours of play. I jumped online and read some stories of other players who found themselves, you know, halfway through the game and suddenly out of money with no way to make any more money. Now, they must have been spending their money differently than I have been, because I am about halfway through the game now and I have over 7,000 credits. But, you know, that just goes to show you, if you are reckless with your spending, you can dig yourself into a hole that might require you to completely restart the game from the very beginning, which that thought alone made me really hesitate to want to continue. But what I discovered in hours 6 through 10 of playing this game is that if I fully explore all of the derelicts and you know, just make thoughtful choices and try to be conservative with my money, build my characters a little bit at least with conserving money in mind, then you know, I've been just fine in terms of my finances. And I also have never had my party get wiped out. I think there's just plenty of room for a conservative style of play and to be over-leveled, so that, like, right now I'm level 5 and I still, let's see here, what's the dungeon I was on? I'm still going through a level 3 derelict right now. It's only 37% explored with no missions completed of the 2 that are available in it. So let's jump back into that one. And now, because I have the option selected to autofill my energy every time I, you know, enter one of these, I start at 1,000. That's the base that you start. I think you can increase the maximum number of energy that you start with, but I'm still just at 1,000. And this is the map you're going to be looking at a lot to explore. You know, the white space is the one that, or rather, the one with the circle on it with you in the circle. White space, that's me. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So you'll see it says 9 EP. It costs 9 energy points to move into that space. But there are 3 movement modes. There's normal, which is what I'm in now. If you look at the bottom of the screen, I hit R1, I can go to rush. that means it only costs 5 EP to move into a space, and 10 EP if I want to move there. So you can kind of map out in advance how far you want to go. 35 EP to get to this point if I'm rushing, 63 EP if I'm on normal, and 98 EP if I'm stealthing. I haven't really explored stealth just because I've really been trying to be conservative with my energy. Normal gives you, an equal fighting chance with the enemies that you encounter. I think stealth is probably going to allow you to get the drop on enemies in some sense, and rush will allow them to get the drop on you. Basically, they'll get almost, 2 complete free rounds where your guys will miss all of their turns for like 2 rounds if you're rushing. So I tend not to rush except for areas that I've already opened up and explored. And what I'll do just to be super conservative is I'll even just quickly save right before I plan to rush. So now let's rush. I'm going to go here. This little dash is an indicator that there is something there to search. And all the symbols on the map, again, can be explored in the codex, so you kind of can get to know them. So let's rush over here, see what happens. Alright, so I didn't run into any bad guys, and now I have the option to search. And I'll find, a quest item, nice. I'm collecting trash for one of the NPCs I ran into in this derelict. And this is just kind of like some junk item, but it's still going to be worth a little bit, so very nice. Alright, so now I'm going to, let's see, well, I'll play it safe and save again before I rush, and now I'll rush over here and see what happens. Alright. Oh! Enemy ambush! Well, I don't like that, so I'll just load. It's not going to be the playstyle for everybody, but it's the way I like to play, so I can really maximize my energy expenditure. So I'll just go back to normal speed now. We'll go to the same spot. And here are these bad guys. A bunch of lizards are surveying their room. They start to make an aggressive clicking sound as they spot you. I really like the dialogue bubbles in this game, both the narrative dialogue and then also the character dialogue bubbles when you're interacting. This is the sound. What are they called? The sound. Snowhound. Excuse me. Snowhound is the developer of this game, and they're based in Finland, I believe. And I think whatever they had, as far as like translation or whoever was writing for them, it really works well for me in the dialogue and the narration bubbles. Where it kind of falls apart for me a little bit is in the data pads that you can find, which have a ton more text and kind of give you more lore and background about the game, and you find data entries from people who have long since died, and you learn a little bit about their lives and their experience and stuff. And that's where it feels like there's some kind of clunky translation issues going on now and then. Not so much that it's like, I don't know what they're saying, but just so that it doesn't read smoothly all of the time and can kind of take me out of it just a little bit. But anyway, okay, so we're going to fight these things that clearly seem to be inspired by H.R. Giger's Alien from the Alien franchise, and these creatures aren't the only influence I've spotted from that franchise, and it's a welcome influence for me. So this is your basic combat screen. By selecting units, click R1, then I can start on the bottom right here. I can cycle through the different units that are going to have turns. What we're looking at here is the initiative order. So like, he's going to go first, then McCoy, and so on and so forth. And initiative order is really pretty significant. You can play cards that will have effect on initiative order, and that can be really helpful to get ahead of the enemies in that way. You're also going to want to inspect your own teammates, like I'll inspect McCoy right now. And I can see that these are the cards that she will definitely have. I think she also gets to maybe draw 1 or 2 cards once her turn actually starts, but right now these are the guaranteed cards that she has. And so I can kind of look ahead and figure out, I mean, if I want to. Many times I don't look ahead like this. I just, especially once I'm kind of over-leveled a bit like I am, I don't feel the need to kind of dig in this much. But it's here if you want to, so that you can really plan out your entire strategy of your whole team. One thing that is a little bit frustrating about the controls is that to close out of this menu, you press circle on the PlayStation controller. Now that's a very common button for backing out, for backing out of menus. But once I've backed out of that, if I accidentally press it again, if you look at the bottom middle, it says press circle button to pass. And especially in the first 5 hours, there were a number of times where I accidentally skipped one of my character's turns just because I was backing out of a menu, and I thought I had one more menu to back out of, so I just quick hit circle twice to back out, and I ended up skipping a character's turn, So the interface doesn't always feel really intuitive to me, but I've certainly experienced a lot worse. So anyway, it's my leader's turn, it's Alpha's turn. So I'll go back over here. These are the cards that are currently in his hand that I have to choose from. Now I've built him to be a mix of like an ally buffer. He can inspire his allies, help them each draw one card, and have a 15% chance to energize one. So that's just one example of like, what in the world does that mean? Well, in this case, they actually have a little pop-up that says energize. Extra cards can be played during a single turn. But sometimes there'll be terminology that shows up in one of these card descriptions that, again, you want to jump over to the codex in the middle of combat and get yourself educated. But again, when backing out of the codex with circle, just be careful that you don't hit it twice. So he can also do 100% damage, which in this case will be 13 as indicated by the big red number there. He can harden shields of him for himself for 3 turns, or do this special aimed shot, which I think is probably what I'm going to do. Yeah, so we'll just go after this guy for now. They all have the same initiative and body points. Now McCoy's up next. Let's see here. Pacify is a really nice option. It prevents a biological unit from using attack cards for 1 turn. And we got a whole bunch of these guys, so I think the best use for her... Well, you know what? Actually killing that dude... Well, no, because my other guy... Let's see here. This is where I might want to look ahead. So let's jump over here. What does Abe have? He only has 1 attack card... So he's not going to be... Well, he's going to be able to do 18 damage, but he's not going to be able to kill anybody in a single hit. But he could finish off that guy. So, why don't I have her pacify this guy way over here so at least he won't attack? And now on Abe's turn... Oh, look at that. He did get another combat card, but again, he can only play 1 card per turn, as is typical, unless you have Energize, which allows you to play more than 1 card. So we'll use just 11 here to finish off this guy. I like the sound design for this game. I do wish the combat noises had just a little bit more impact. I find that I do like... Oh, what's this? Skink Call. What did he do? What did he do? Ugh! Oh, man. Okay. I was going to say, I find that I do like the music to this. At first, it felt a little bit groovy and not quite as, like, pulsing and pounding as I kind of, I guess, wanted it to be. But after a few hours, it really grew on me. It has that kind of pseudo-80s kind of vibe to it, even though it is a modern, style of electronic music as well. Alright, so I'm gonna select my units and find out what's wrong with them. So let's see, we'll look at Alpha first. See these icons next to him? He's got that weird orange icon next to his health and shields, which, by the way, the 48 next to him that's his health, and then the smaller blue number is the shields. That's the one you really want to pay the most attention to. Like you see, McCoy is already down to 13, so I definitely want to see if I can do something about that. Anyway, let's see what's going on with Alpha. Let's shrink that. Okay, active effects. Acid Claw, minus 10% damage resistance. That's going to last for 4 turns. That does suck a bit. Not terrible, though. So we'll back out of that. What's wrong with McCoy? Oh, geez, she's got a bunch of stuff going on. Parasite. First to aid, plus 3 initiative for 1 turn. That's something that triggers when one of her allies gets a negative effect. Then her initiative boosts up so she can quickly get her turn in and help them out. And then she also gets to play plus 1 card per turn. Well, let's see here. Oh, that's weird. I'm pressing... To move the right text down, I press the right stick down, but then for some reason this one I have to press up to scroll it down. That's weird. Skink Call. Taunt for 2 turns, which means she's going to be forced to attack him as opposed to attacking somebody else. And then Acid Spit. She got minus 15% damage resistance for 4 turns. Alright. Finally, Abe. He's got that parasite problem. Okay. But there's no description given there. Let's see if that's in the Codex. Okay, so there's a rare example of a term that's not in the Codex. You can look at your enemies and learn a little bit about them, but their cards so far have always showed up as a mystery to me. Maybe there's some ability my characters can get that will reveal what those cards say, but I haven't run into it yet. Alright, we'll just stick to damage for now. Keep taking these guys down if I can. Oh, he missed. Now she's got Adrenaline Booster. I could maybe give that to Abe. Let's see if it would be worth it by inspecting his cards. Well, right now, see if I zoom in, he's got... ooh, he could restore her shield with one of his moves and then attack with another. So that could be a pretty good use of that. So we will... I mean, rather than... I mean, she could do 14 damage, but... Well, I don't know. Let's see. 14... plus 18... So I could do... Between the two of them, I could do 32 damage and take out one of these guys. She does have 21 shields now, so she got some of her shields back. Maybe I should just keep pressing the attack. And these are the kind of choices that you have to make. I think I'll go ahead and do that. Oh, but she missed! And so now that feels like a bit of a waste. But she did end up with Energize. I'm not sure how that happened. It's probably an effect that I didn't keep track of happening. You know, some of these cards will have a certain percentage chance of bringing about some effect, and so there's a lot going on in this game that, you know, for me it's hard to keep track of it all. But I've never felt like I had to really understand or keep track of all the information. Alright, so let's go ahead and boost Abe. Alright, let's give this a shot. Come on. There we go. And let's go ahead and recharge McCoy's shield. Ooh, never seen that before. There's lots of cool little statuses in this game, you know, and none that annoyingly, like, take your characters out of the game that I've run into, like, oh, you're just confused, or you're asleep now, or whatever, you know. It's usually like the buffs and debuffs, or ongoing damage, that kind of stuff. There we go. Alright, finish him off, Abe. Oh! Ugh. Oh, but he blocked it. Nice. Alright. Come on, Alpha. You got this. There we go. None will survive. And you also have the option anytime, if combat is getting too scary, to flee from combat. That does allow the enemy to have, like, 1 or 2 full rounds to just wail on you before you escape, but anybody who survives that can then escape, and you can, you know, live to fight another day, hopefully. And then, you know, you got some loot to sift through. I'm not going to want this level 1 shield core, but I can sell it. Same with the level 2 shield core, and that stuff. And what's this? Shows, oh, Holovid. Shows successes and failures of other scavengers. Great source of learning. When consumed, squad gains 60 experience. So very often there's something useful or interesting that you're picking up in loot in this game. So now I'm pretty close to some of these smaller squares right here. Those are squares that haven't been revealed yet. And since it does cost some energy to scan, I like to try and, you know, get myself surrounded by as many of those small dots as possible before I choose to use a scan. But then I will go ahead and scan. Here's a square button. And it reveals, okay, there's nothing there that I really need to investigate. You can also do a remote scan, where you can use the circle button. It's covered up, the square and circle button, which are used for doing the scanning, is covered up by my picture-in-picture here. But when you use the circle button, it highlights areas where from which you can start your scan. So if I start my scan from right here, then I can actually get info that spreads out from that point instead of from the point that I'm standing at. So that's an option too. And these derelicts, I mean, you got the basic shape of the derelict here, and all this is going to get filled in with squares too as I explore it and discover more. One thing that's cool, I mean, you got these energy symbols that indicate energy surges there, and those can have different effects on things. I won't get into that, but these areas with padlocks are areas that are blocked off. In this case, it specifies it's a pirate base, but every derelict has some blocked off areas that you can either unlock by interacting with some artificial intelligence that is still, you know, quote-unquote alive on the ship that you can interact with and get to unlock things or do certain things for you. But some locked areas are guarded by people because people are settling there, and so they'll have a guard outside of the settlement that is willing to trade with you or give you quests. But at the end of it all, if you want, you can just attack them, even after doing their quests and trading with them, which is a pretty frequent move on my part. And if you beat them, which involves a combat with multiple waves of opponents, then you get a ton of loot and resources as a result of doing that. In almost all the quests I've run into, you get some interesting dialogue options to choose from. In fact, I just found the last quest item for a quest I was on, so let's rush over here and see if we can wrap up this quest. Nice, okay, so no enemy encounters, so that saved me a lot of energy doing it that way. Now here's my quest giver. Comrade, brought me any trash? Check this out. I went the full way. I had the option of just collecting 3 bits of trash for him, or 6 optionally, and so I went for all 6. Check this out. 140 XP, nice. How dirty. Honored psychosocial cleaner of the derelicts, your performance couldn't have been better. I'll just assemble the dirt you've removed from the corridors here on the top of all the other matter I've gathered and hand you your reward. I'll even put in a bit of extra for your thoroughness. You won't get rid of the junk? All matter is immortal and holy. You can't just let it lay anywhere you like. Keep it in one exact spot and everything is fine, but here's your reward. If you happen to find more grungy trash, you can bring them to me. Keep it clean. And so that was a pretty straightforward encounter, but many times you'll have multiple dialogue options when interacting with people to either do a quest for them or attack them, and so it's nice having those options as well. I also want to comment on the art style. It really has that look of a 1980s comic. It reminds me of some of the artists that Frank Miller would collaborate with in books like Ronin or The Dark Knight Returns, that nice watercolored look to the textures and colors, but with the really dark, thick ink lines that define everything. I really, really dig the visual design of this game. I always like to keep an eye out, or my mind out, for interesting themes that are relevant to moral, philosophical, or spiritual issues, coming at it from specifically a Christian perspective. This game, I don't think, is looking to really intentionally or really in an upfront way explore themes. It's not a game that's about story, even though I do enjoy the dialogue. It's not really about that. It's about the core mechanics and the aesthetics of the game that are attached to those mechanics. But now and then, through the data pads that I'll read along the way, there are definitely some signs of thoughtfulness in the writing. It's pulling from those ideas of survival of the fittest and capitalism, and the idea that maybe are they one and the same? Is capitalism really just a heartless survival of the fittest kind of thing? And that was explored a lot through cyberpunk, beginning in the 80s. So that definitely carries over here. I'm not sure how much of that is, something that the writers here want to say, and how much of it is them just kind of mimicking the cyberpunk genre. There's also questions now and then of whether or not some of the machines that you run into are life. Are they life in the same way that humans are life? Are they persons in the same way that humans are persons? So far, I haven't seen it treated in a really serious way, and sometimes it's treated in a kind of a comical way. So I doubt, from a spiritual or philosophical level, this game is going to be really thought-provoking. But man, it scratches my itches for interesting but not brain-burning combat choices, for steady loot upgrading, just a steady stream of interesting loot to look at and consider. A nice dark sci-fi aesthetic, even though it does have some humor in it as well. Exploration I really enjoy in this game. The encounter choices when you run into NPCs and stuff, I find lots of interesting choices to make there. And then deep tactical customization and conceptual customization. I just really like how the themes of, like, if a person's a leader and they can have these charismatic buffs to inspire their party members, or a tech that can help to enhance or replenish shields and stuff. You know, there's a great marrying between theme and mechanics in this game that makes customization not just a tactical exercise, but a conceptual exercise as well. That's fun for me both creatively and, I guess, intellectually. Now, this one releases on PlayStation 4 on March 24th with a price tag, I believe, of $24.99. If that's the case, that's a bit steep for me for this kind of game. That's the price tag where I kind of start wanting a 3D graphics interface, a 3D world to kind of explore. But, you know, even 2D as it is, the aesthetics here are a lot nicer than what you might get in a 3D game. Even so, you know, just with my budget and my spending practices, $25 seems a bit on the steep side for me for this game. Now, if it was on sale for like $10 or less, knowing what I know about this game now, that would be a really exciting bargain for me. That would be a really exciting discovery if I were to get it on a sale at $10 or less. I think probably $15 to $20, leaning a little more toward $15, would be really the sweet spot for what I would want to pay for this. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed or found useful this significantly different approach to reviewing a video game compared to what I normally do, but such as they were, those are my thoughts. I'd love to get yours in the comments below, and then I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Thanks to you guys here on YouTube, Christian Geek Central recently passed 2,000 subscribers, so thank you so much for watching, for subscribing, for telling others about this content. I appreciate it so much, and it's pretty cool and weird to hit this milestone, and I want to celebrate it a little bit, so I'm going to have a Q&A right here on youtube.com/christiangeekcentral at 6 p.m. Arizona time. I'll leave a link below where you can figure out what Arizona time is. 6 p.m. Arizona time on Monday, March 30th. So I hope you will come by for that. I would love to connect with you. Thanks again. Bye-bye.